So bobcats are predators too, but they do a little, they do a different job, even though they use similar tools as.
What would you like? Skip this guy?
No, bring him. Okay, we talked about.
This is number 5. This is the one.
Yeah, we talked about carnivores. Most of what all the animals we've been talking about so far, 1 through whatever number it is, are carnivores. And if you look at this skull, the first time you look at it, you would think, well, this is a carnivore too, because of the teeth or the tools that he would have. But this animal is actually omnivorous. And anybody want to guess what it was? Bear, right? Skull black bear. And black bears they eat a lot of things besides meat. Now they'll catch some meat and eat it fresh, and they'll eat dead things, and they'll eat tubers or roots and berries and grasses and nuts and all kinds of things. When they first come out of hibernation in the spring, they eat a lot of greens for whatever reason. Probably, they get their gut in shape to eat other things. But anyway, this is the bear. We have somewhere, we figure, in around 1,500 to 2,000 black bears living in Pennsylvania in the wild. And we have over 12 million people living here in Pennsylvania. And we've never had anyone killed by wild black bear. Now, we've heard some stories of bear, like not so long ago over in the Northeast, a black bear had killed some lady, I think. But it was a tame black, or so-called tame black bear. She had it pinned up, and she went inside the pen to do something, and didn't put it in a different pen, and the bear attacked her. But in Pennsylvania, we've had a few bear attacks, nobody killed, but a few wild bear attacks. But that usually happens under extraordinary circumstances, where guys are out maybe hunting, and they put a lot of scent of other animals or whatever on themselves, or they get between a mother bear and her cubs. But even that, it would be rare for a black bear to actually attack a person. Not that it doesn't happen. And in other parts of the country, like in more remote areas in Canada and Alaska, black bears have killed unprovokedly, killed human beings. But here in the East Coast, that's not so prevalent, and we don't know why. Maybe because there's more food here and they're not as hungry, or maybe because the more aggressive bears get shot off because they approach people and people get scared and shoot them or whatever. Most of the injuries that happen with black bear are caused by where people lose their respect for the bear, and the bear loses its fear of humans, and that happens a lot of times around camps or people who live out of the country, and a bear comes and they start feeding it, or they have the bird feeders up. The bear comes and gets the bird feed, and then the bear associates food with human beings. If you get hungry, where do you go? Pardon me? Restaurant, right? Or if you're at home, you go to the kitchen, right? To the refrigerator. Why? Because that's where the food is. So if a human being, every time a bear comes to your cabin or your house, if you feed it something, it's going to think, hey, these humans give me food. And then if some human that doesn't like bears, doesn't know there's bears around, if they show up where the bear is, then the bear thinks, hey, there's somebody's going to give me a bar of candy or marshmallow or something. He walks toward the person, that person thinks, well, the bear's coming to eat him up. So. Anyway, now we'll go to the beaver. This is the skull of the beaver. He's a what? Omnivore, right? No, he's what is the beaver? What's he eat? Herbivore, right? Beavers have these big teeth. All rodents. What are some other rodents? Anybody know? Other rodents? Muskrat? Anything else? Mouse? Right. All rodents have these big gnawing teeth. And they have to keep chewing or gnawing on things because, unlike our teeth that's so large and then they quit growing, a beaver's teeth or any rodent's teeth will grow all while the animal's alive. So they have to keep gnawing on things to keep their teeth worn down. Some of you maybe have gerbils or whatever those little critters are that eat and they have like collarbones or whatever they call them, so that critter can chew on that bone and keep his teeth worn down. But out in the wild, there's no, they have to chew on things. So the beaver, he chews on trees. He cuts down trees. He'll cut down. I've seen him cut down trees that big around, and their tool is these teeth. And I don't know why they're orange on the front, but I do know that this orange material on the front of the tooth is a thin coat of really hard material. I don't know if it's dentine or enamel, maybe enamel. Enamel's supposed to be harder, isn't it? Anybody here know? But anyway, as the tooth wears away, then the tooth will stay nice and sharp because of this thin coating on the outside of the tooth. So, and beavers are the largest rodent in North America. The big one can weigh as much as, the biggest one that I ever looked at as a wildlife officer was 72 pounds. So, this is the skull of a muskrat, right?
Number 11.
Somebody said muskrat before, or as a rodent, and this shows that he's a rodent. He has a rodent-type tools, and like the beaver, he likes to live in water areas, wet areas. But and he'll build a house too out of like rushes and reeds and stuff like that. But he doesn't build a dam, or a beaver builds a dam, and the beaver builds a lot of dams, not just one, and it makes a lot of wet areas. And in fact, they change their environment more than any other critter except us human beings because of what they do. And a lot of species of critters, insects and snakes and bugs and fish and frogs and turtles and all kinds of things will benefit by what the beaver does when he builds these dams. And then we benefit too, because in areas where there are beavers living, they create this wet area. When it rains hard, a lot of the excess water is soaked up in these wet areas that they create, these beaver dams, and then when it quits raining, the water drains away slowly. But where there are no beaver dams or flood control, we've done that, we've built flood control dams. But where there are none of these dams, when it rains hard, the water washes into the stream and gully washes down the stream, floods everything, and then just shortly after it quits raining, why the streams are almost dry again because there's nothing to hold that excess water when it rains hard.
We did talk about the importance of wetlands.
Okay, and they are important because thousands of species benefit from those wet areas. The muskrat, he lives in almost any little stream or ditch that you can find here in Pennsylvania. If it has water in it, you'll find muskrats living there usually. And the muskrat, he runs up and down that ditch every night. They're nocturnal, and he runs up and down that ditch and he eats some of the vegetation. But they'll eat some like fish too if they can get it, and even though he's an herbivore. And then they like to burrow into the side of the stream, and they do that a lot. And sometimes the stream will cave in, the stream bank will cave in, and the water moves over a little bit. And that doesn't seem much like much to us, but that's important because if you've ever noticed in the natural community, in a natural area, you never see streams or rivers running in a straight line. We'd like them to do that, and we try to straighten them out and build walls and try to keep it straight. But nature's way is that the streams kind of meander back and forth. And so when the muskrat digs into the bank caves in, that moves the water over, changes the course of the stream or river. And if they do it like an inch every year, if they just move the water an inch every year, in 100 years they'd move the water, several feet. I guess you can figure that out, 8 feet, 9 feet, something like that. So that's the muskrat's job. And while he runs up and down, just like when you go out and play football or softball or whatever you play, in the area where you do a lot of that, the grass gets worn down, right? And that's the way the muskrat, when he's running up and down these ditches, it doesn't, it helps to keep the grass and the weeds from clogging up ditches. And ditches are important. We don't think about that much either, but, PennDOT, if you know anybody who works for PennDOT, they pay a lot of money and do a lot of worrying about the ditches along the highways and the culverts. And those things are important because when it rains hard, they want the water to drain away the way it's supposed to and not flood the road. But we can't hire people to go out here all over the natural community where there are ditches, and there's ditches all over. You know that. It doesn't take much to make a ditch. And we don't